Have you ever craved deep love, but felt an overwhelming urge to run the moment it got close? You're not broken. You're torn between love and fear.
Today, we're diving into the hidden heartbreak of fearful avoidant attachment through Rebecca's story and revealing how healing really begins.
If you've ever felt like your heart is fighting itself, stay with us. We're uncovering the hidden patterns that trap you in relationship chaos and giving you the exact steps toward freedom and secure love. Hi, friends, and welcome back. And if you're new here, welcome to our community. I'm Tehrina Terry.
And I'm Joel Terry. We're licensed therapists with 30 years of experience between us, here to help you build healthy relationships.
And we do this through teaching you the ABCs of lasting love: attachment, boundaries, and communication. Really, all things relationships.
If that sounds good, we'd love for you to subscribe. And if you find this video helpful, please give it a like.
This is the 5th episode in our 6-part series on attachment styles and relationship compatibility. We crafted each video to work as a complete story with its own key insights and takeaways. So if you're joining us for the first time today, you'll still gain valuable relationship wisdom while following our characters' journeys. But if you want the full experience, we've also created a playlist with all the previous episodes, which you'll find linked in the description box below.
In our previous videos, we followed Emma's journey from recognizing red flags to finding secure attachment and explored Michael's experience with dismissive avoidant attachment.
Today we're meeting Rebecca, who experiences what attachment researchers call disorganized attachment or fearful avoidant, the most complex attachment pattern and often the most misunderstood. People with this attachment style are frequently mislabeled as unstable, unpredictable, or even manipulative. But these judgments miss the profound emotional conflict at the core of their experience.
While other attachment styles show relatively consistent patterns, anxious individuals typically pursue connection, while avoidants typically maintain distance. Fearful avoidant attachment creates a tumultuous internal conflict between these opposing impulses. Through Rebecca's story, we'll explore not just the struggle, but the healing pathway towards secure attachment.
Meet Rebecca. On the surface, she's magnetic and charismatic, the person everyone wants at their dinner party. She's quick-witted, emotionally intuitive, and genuinely caring towards others. But beneath this confident exterior lies a profound attachment contradiction.
Unlike Michael, who consistently maintained emotional distance, or Emma, who consistently sought connection, Rebecca experiences both impulses simultaneously. She deeply craves intimate connection while feeling terrified by it. This creates what we call an approach avoidance conflict. The closer someone gets, the more Rebecca's fear intensifies, despite her genuine desire for that very closeness.
This contradiction creates a bewildering experience for both Rebecca and her partners. In moments of connection, she feels an overwhelming urge to flee. In moments of distance, she feels desperate for reassurance. And this pendulum swing between anxious pursuit and fearful withdrawal creates the relationship chaos that characterizes fearful avoidant attachment.
Rebecca met Daniel at a friend's gathering, where their immediate connection surprised both of them. Their early relationship was marked by intense emotional intimacy and passionate connection. Rebecca shared vulnerabilities she'd never revealed to others, and Daniel felt special being allowed into her inner world.
But as their relationship deepened beyond the initial honeymoon phase, Rebecca's contradictory attachment system activated. After a particularly intimate weekend together, Daniel noticed Rebecca suddenly become distant and evasive. And when he asked what was wrong, she insisted everything's fine, while clearly withdrawing emotionally.
Days later, Rebecca would swing in the opposite direction, texting Daniel constantly and expressing anxiety that he might be losing interest. These dramatic shifts weren't manipulative tactics. They reflected the genuine neurobiological conflict happening in Rebecca's attachment system, while connection simultaneously registered as both desirable and threatening.
This unpredictable pattern created profound confusion for Daniel. Unlike dating someone with a consistent attachment style, being with Rebecca meant never knowing which version would appear from day to day. After expressing deep love and vulnerability, Rebecca might suddenly claim she needed space to figure things out. But when Daniel respectfully provided that space, Rebecca would panic about abandonment.
Over time, Daniel noticed specific triggers for Rebecca's attachment shifts. When their relationship reached new levels of intimacy, saying, I love you, meeting family members, discussing the future, Rebecca would inevitably pull away. These milestones that typically strengthen secure relationships instead activated Rebecca's fear system.
The most confusing aspect for both was that Rebecca's withdrawal wasn't a sign of disinterest. It was a protection against the vulnerability that comes with deep connection. Unlike purely avoidant individuals who might feel relief when maintaining distance, Rebecca felt torn between competing needs, leading to emotional suffering for both partners.
Rebecca's journey toward healing began when Daniel, exhausted but still loving, gently suggested therapy. Recognizing the pain her contradictory patterns were causing them both, Rebecca agreed. The first step in a challenging but transformative process.
Unlike healing from purely anxious or avoidant patterns, addressing fearful avoidant attachment often requires specialized therapeutic approaches. Rebecca found help through a therapist specializing in both attachment and trauma, who combined several evidence based approaches.
First, through emotionally focused therapy, a powerful approach focused on strengthening emotional bonds, Rebecca learned to identify her attachment needs and the competing fears that arose when those needs were activated. She began recognizing her triggers for withdrawal and the bodily sensations that signaled an impending emotional retreat.
Second, using internal family systems, also known as parts work, Rebecca discovered the protective parts of herself that created distance to avoid vulnerability, as well as the desperate parts that feared abandonment. Rather than seeing these as character flaws, she understood them as protective responses to past relationship injuries.
Third, through mindfulness practices, Rebecca developed the ability to observe her contradictory impulses without immediately acting on them. She learned to notice the urge to withdraw after intimacy and developed greater tolerance for sitting with that discomfort rather than immediately creating distance.
These approaches helped Rebecca develop what attachment researchers call earned secure attachment, the capacity to form stable, consistent relationships despite early attachment disruptions. This wasn't about becoming a different person, but about integrating the conflicting parts of her attachment system.
Through therapy, Rebecca began understanding the origins of her contradictory attachment style. Unlike Michael, whose parents were consistently emotionally unavailable, or Emma, whose parents were inconsistently available, Rebecca's childhood featured something more complex: caregivers who were simultaneously sources of both comfort and fear.
Rebecca's mother, struggling with untreated bipolar disorder, would swing between loving engagement and frightening emotional outbursts. Her father, while physically present, would emotionally shut down during family conflicts rather than providing protection. In this environment, Rebecca learned conflicting lessons about relationships. People who love you can also hurt you, and connection isn't reliably safe.
This created an attachment paradox in Rebecca's developing brain. When attachment figures are simultaneously sources of both comfort and fear, the attachment system becomes disorganized, unable to develop a consistent strategy for seeking security. This explains why Rebecca experiences both anxious yearning for connection and fearful avoidance of it, sometimes simultaneously.
If you're wondering about your own attachment patterns, our free boundaries and attachment styles quiz can help you identify whether you're secure, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized.
A crucial element in Rebecca's healing was learning to communicate her contradictory attachment needs. Instead of suddenly withdrawing when feeling overwhelmed, she practiced saying to Daniel, I'm feeling the urge to pull away right now. It's not about you, it's my attachment system getting triggered. Can we take a short break and reconnect in an hour?
And Daniel's response was equally important. Unlike previous partners who either anxiously pursued her during withdrawal or angrily distanced themselves, Daniel respected her need for space while maintaining emotional connection, saying, I understand you need some space, and I'll be here when you're ready to talk. This type of communication allowed Rebecca to be honest about her attachment needs without acting out the destructive push pull patterns. It created what attachment researchers call rupture and repair, the ability to navigate relationship disconnections and find the way back to connection.
Fearful-avoidant attachment represents the most complex pattern in attachment research, affecting about 7 to 8% of the population. While other attachment styles develop relatively organized strategies for managing relationship stress, disorganized attachment reflects what neuroscientists call contradictory neural activation, where the brain's approach and avoidance systems activate at the same time. Dr. Mary Main's groundbreaking research identified this pattern through the strange situation experiments, where infants with disorganized attachment showed contradictory behaviors, approaching caregivers while averting their gaze, or freezing midway through a reunion. These behaviors reflected an unresolvable dilemma. The same person who represents safety also represents threat. Functional MRI studies by Dr. Ruth Lanius reveal the neurobiological basis for this pattern. When individuals with fearful avoidant attachment encounter relationship intimacy, both the brain's attachment system and fear network activate. This creates a neurobiological double approach avoidance conflict, where the brain is signaling both connect for safety and withdraw for safety at the same time. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's research explains why fearful avoidant patterns often stem from complex relational trauma, when attachment figures are simultaneously sources of care and sources of threat. The developing brain can't integrate these contradictory experiences, and this creates what trauma researchers call defensive exclusion, the inability to form coherent mental models of relationships. The most hopeful research comes from Dr. Dan Siegel's work on neuroplasticity, showing that even disorganized attachment patterns can reorganize through therapeutic experiences that promote neural integration, helping the brain resolve contradictory activation and develop more coherent relationship models. This explains why therapeutic approaches that address both relational patterns and the underlying trauma are most effective for healing fearful avoidant attachment.
So let's get to the heart of it. Rebecca's journey reveals something profound about the human heart's capacity to heal from even the most complex attachment injuries. The chaos she experienced wasn't a character flaw. It was her psyche's desperate attempt to resolve an impossible contradiction between needing connection and fearing it. What makes the fearful avoidant experience so painful isn't just the relationship turbulence it creates, but the profound loneliness of feeling fundamentally at war within yourself. Rebecca described it as wanting to be held while simultaneously wanting to run away, a split in the very core of her emotional being that left her feeling broken and unreachable. The most heart-wrenching aspect of fearful avoidant attachment is that it often develops from circumstances where a child had no choice but to love someone who is also a source of fear or harm. And this impossible situation creates an attachment wound that ripples through adult relationships, creating the very disconnection the person most fears. If you recognize Rebecca's patterns in yourself, the most important truth to embrace is that your contradictory reactions aren't evidence of being too damaged for healthy love. They're adaptations that once protected you in circumstances where complete trust wasn't safe. Your attachment system isn't broken. It developed exactly as it needed to in order to survive an emotional complexity that no child should have to navigate alone. The pathway to healing isn't about eliminating your need for self-protection or your longing for connection. It's about integration. It's learning to hold both your vulnerability and your boundaries as valuable aspects of wholeness rather than contradictory forces. This integration doesn't happen overnight, but each small step toward understanding these patterns creates new possibilities for connection. What gives Rebecca's story its power isn't that she became perfectly secure. It's that she found the courage to face her contradictory attachment fears with compassion rather than shame. Through this self-compassion, she discovered that healing doesn't require becoming someone else. It requires becoming more fully yourself with all the complexity that entails.
If you recognize your partner in Rebecca's story, understanding fearful avoidant patterns can bring clarity to behaviors that might otherwise seem chaotic or manipulative. This understanding is valuable, but comes with an important caveat. You cannot heal your partner's attachment wounds.
And that is such an important truth. Supporting a partner with fearful avoidant attachment requires clear boundaries and honest self assessment. Ask yourself, Is this relationship bringing growth and connection despite its challenges? Or is it creating escalating distress and dysfunction? Compassion for your partner's attachment history should never mean compromising your own emotional health.
The healthiest stance combines understanding with appropriate expectations. You can offer consistency without demanding perfection, provide reassurance without tolerating harmful behavior, and respect their attachment journey while honoring your own needs.
If your partner isn't actively working on their attachment patterns through therapy or dedicated self work, the relationship dynamics are unlikely to change significantly. Your compassion matters, but it isn't a substitute for your partner's own healing journey.
Rebecca's healing wasn't a fairy tale transformation. There were still moments of withdrawal, times of anxious clinging, and days when old patterns resurfaced. The difference was her growing awareness and her commitment to repairing relationship ruptures rather than retreating into shame.
With time and consistent effort, Rebecca's attachment pendulum began swinging less dramatically. The intense, fearful avoidant reactions didn't completely disappear, but they became less frequent and less intense. And more importantly, Rebecca developed the capacity to recognize these reactions without being completely overwhelmed by them.
This growth allowed her relationship with Daniel to evolve from chaos to something approaching security. Not perfect attachment doesn't exist, but a relationship where both partners could be authentic, vulnerable, and imperfectly human together.
Rebecca's story reminds us that healing attachment wounds isn't about achieving some idealized relationship state. It's about developing the capacity to stay connected through the inevitable ebbs and flows of intimacy and finding the courage to keep choosing connection even when fear suggests otherwise.
In our final episode of this series, we'll explore how attachment styles shape not just romantic relationships, but friendships as well. We'll meet four friends, Sophia, Mia, Ava, and Zoe, each with different attachment styles, as they navigate the complexities of friendship dynamics. Discover how these patterns appear across all relationships and how developing security in friendships can strengthen your capacity for connection in all areas of life.
If you recognize aspects of Rebecca's story in yourself or someone you love, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What resonated with you? What small step might you take toward healing contradictory attachment patterns?
And don't forget to check out our free resources, which can help you take the next step. Our Boundaries and Attachment Styles quiz reveals your unique pattern, while our Must-Haves and Deal Breakers workbook helps establish healthy relationship foundations. And the links to both can be found in the description box below.
Your time is valuable. Thank you for spending some of it with us today. If you found this helpful, please give it a like. And if you know someone who might be struggling with similar patterns, please share this video with them. It could provide the understanding they need.
Subscribe and take care of your heart. And remember, you're not alone. We're all in this
Together.